Hi, I'm Bruce Hunter, Associate Executive Director of AASA for Advocacy and Public Policy. With me is Noelle Ellerson, who's the Assistant Director here at AASA for Advocacy and Policy Analysis. We have just finished some interesting data using the Phi Delta Kappa poll, which was published last Wednesday, I believe, on the 25th. The data from the PDK poll is always really interesting. This year, PDK shared their questions with us, and we used 7 of those questions to plumb the attitudes of school administrators. Noelle did that, and why don't you talk about what you found?
Absolutely. Well, a lot of what we picked items that we thought either had information that we didn't already know about our members, or that we thought would highlight a strong similarity or strong difference with the public, with the general public, just to sort of highlight where the similarities and differences may be as policy discussions go forward. The biggest point of difference this year was in our charter school questions. While the general public does have a growing level of support and interest in charter schools, our members had a strong, 81% strong, opposition to charter schools in their own community. We read that data with hesitation, though, because we used the PDK question as it was given to us, so we would be comparable and identical to the PDK survey question. When you put that 81% opposition, though, against the general positions of AASA, you see that AASA members, that is school administrators, have support and understanding and interest in publicly accountable charter schools. That is, charter schools that seem to face the same restrictions, requirements, and regulations that public schools do. That is, regulations, restrictions, and requirements that public schools wouldn't undertake necessarily on their own and have to be compliant with for federal dollars. And if we had asked the PDK question with that nuance, we really believe that you would see growing administrator support for charter schools that are publicly accountable. Moving into the areas that were more identical, we were virtually identical by just 1 or 2 percentage points in terms of support for linking teacher pay to student achievement, about 2/3, and equally identical results when it comes to incentivizing pay, so giving teachers pay to staff those hard-to-staff classrooms, either geographically isolated, high urban, high poverty, and that was closer to 3/4, 74%. The other items we touched on were the benchmark question from the PDK poll, which looks at assigning letter grades to public schools. And school administrators, not surprisingly, were more positive when it comes to national level assessment of school grading. And we think a lot of that stems from the fact that while the general public has very high grades for the public schools that they know, that is the schools that their children attend or the schools in their community, as you ask them to grade schools that are further from their comfort zone or with which they have familiarity, so either their entire district as a whole or beyond that to the state or national level, as you ask them to grade those schools, their perception of their performance decreases. When you ask the same set of questions for school administrators, though, it's much more positive. We had an overwhelming percent of school administrators give the nation's public schools a B. And you can account for that or explain that when you consider that many school administrators have taught in multiple systems, different districts, different states, giving them a perspective and opinion beyond not only that of being a school administrator who's familiar with what it takes to run a system, but with a background and experience in running it in different states, different counties, different districts where you have different regulations. And it's that broad-based perception and experience that gives them more familiarity when it comes to evaluating the nation's public schools with a solid B.
Well, the Congress is moving on to trying to finish the Elementary Secondary Education Act. We told you that in 2007, and again in 2008, and again in 2009, and now we've been talking about it in 2010, and they're not going to finish this year. It's the only thing everybody on the Hill agrees with. Maybe next year. Hope springs eternal. We are hoping that in 2011, Congress can finish ESEA. It looks like They've laid the groundwork for that. But of course, there's an election the first Tuesday in November that might throw all of that into a cocked hat. But we are still hopeful, and the people on the Hill are still working on this. Finally, you all got your jobs money this past week or two, and there are many questions about that. And it looks to us like some governors have once again played games with the money. If you feel that your governor has supplanted, and that is strictly forbidden in that legislation, you need to let us know and let the U.S. Department of Education know, and we will ask the Inspector General at the U.S. Department of Education to check and see if your state has violated the rules. With luck, many of you will have gotten your funds and will plan to use those funds in the context of the looming funding cliff when the stimulus dollars run out. If you have questions about that, be sure to call and ask, because either Noel or I will be available to answer those questions, or forward your questions to the Department of Education. Okay?
You can send an email to educationjobs@ed.gov or Bruce or I. And another way to get this information direct from the Hill or from the staff, we're having our annual advocacy conference this September, the 22nd through the 24th, right here in the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. area. It includes briefings from both AASA staff, Key Hill staff, talking about all issues, ESCA, child nutrition, special education funding, the Education Jobs Bill, as well as a built-in day for you to spend time on the Hill talking directly to your congressional delegation. We hope to see you there.
Thank you.